USA have reached the last 16 of the World Cup in dramatic fashion in the end, but they totally deserve to get past Iran. How are you feeling, mate? I know you've been high on this US team since day one. We're going to talk a lot about them, look ahead to the last 16 matchups, but that was incredible to see that young team show that grit and get past Iran.
Yeah, I mean, just relief. Going to the World Cup, again, I count on them going to the World Cup. You should qualify out of CONCACAF every single time. I don't count on them to get out of the group stage, but I looked at this and thought it was as favorable draw as they were going to get. So honestly, I thought it would be a little easier in that I thought they would have had it kind of sealed. I thought they would have beat Wales and lost to England and then just needed a draw here. So to see them needing a win, I was a little nervous. So just a lot of relief.
Yeah, that is the big emotion, I think, among US fans. Even at the end there where they hung on after Pulisic's early goal, got them in the position they needed to be in. They just did it. They got over the line. No one really cares, right? You look at the results at the end of it. They finished second in the group behind England. They now face the Netherlands, which we're going to preview and talk a lot about on today's show. But just incredible, I think, to see this young team we've all watched very closely over the last few years. They've been under the microscope. They've been chucked out there in the deep end. And it was great to see them in the group stage really just flourish and be the best version of themselves, because I don't think we've seen these kind of consistency levels from this US team. And quite frankly, a lot of them haven't been fully fit like they have been, or close to full fitness for all together at the same time over the last few years. So it's almost come together at the perfect time for me. But we'll talk a lot about that. We'll preview a big day 11 coming up. We'll, again, react to the Group A and Group B finale, which was quite the finale indeed. So let's get on to our first big topic today, Nick Mendola. Analysis on the USA. After that huge win against Iran, thanks to Christian Pulisic's goal, which saw him be the hero of the hour. Great defensive display once again from the US. Big question is, have the US overachieved to reach the last 16? I mean, how would we rate their group stage performance? But for me, they've exceeded expectations, but I know you feel a little bit differently about this US team.
Yeah, I think they've hit their expectations. I think it's a group they should have emerged from. It's not because I think they were phenomenal, although I thought they're at least one half of each match, if not the whole game when it comes to England, they were exceptional. And they've grown into this tournament. I think in CONCACAF, I kind of bristled when I would hear Greg Berhalter talk about World Cup qualifying and how this is a young team. I'd be like, yeah, but you're the US. Like you should make excuses when you're not first in the group, let alone this. But I look at them and I just say, you know what? They get better every game. And this wasn't a very difficult group, but it was a World Cup. It was a desperate team, and you needed to win the last game. The defense, granted, they've gotten away with some things, but has mostly been splendid. And they now had a situation where they started Cam Carter-Vickers next to Tim Ream, brought in Walker Zimmerman, and a position that we thought was a real worry because Berhalter wasn't using John Brooks, their most established center back. We thought it was a real worry. And in that round, they allowed one goal, and it's been a strength. So
that was a penalty kick as well. It wasn't even from.
That's right. Yeah.
So you've given him a B, Nick. Explain that. I mean, some people would say that's a little low, but you've had a lot of faith in this young team.
Yeah, I have. I look at them, and with this talent, again, a lot of that B comes down to, honestly, might come down to the coach. I thought that game was screaming out for Giovanni Reyna from about the 15th minute. And if not him, Brendan Aronson. We'll never know, because look, what happened was Christian Pulisic got hurt, and we learned that they go about as far as he does in attack. To the extent where if he doesn't play against the Netherlands, I'll be thinking, unless Tim Weah catches a breakaway or the Netherlands make a mistake, let's hope for penalty kicks. So, they still need answers in the final third. And Weah has gone a long way to showing us he might be part of the solution.
Absolutely.
What about you? What do you grade him? Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I've gone ahead and given him an A- because they really exceeded my expectations. I did not think the way that they shaped up before this World Cup, or just I thought they'd struggle against Wales, and I didn't think they'd get anything against England. So they've exceeded my expectations pretty much every step of the way so far, Nick. I mean, the way they're playing, not just the results, not just the fact that, like Greg Berhalter said after the game, we're unbeaten going into the knockout rounds. It's been the way they've played as well. Unlucky not to beat England. Unlucky not to beat Wales. And then they beat Iran. And yes, it was dicey late on, but they had some really good chances in the first half in particular. And then the way the game panned out, they were always going to be on the back foot late on as Iran threw everything at them to get the goal they needed. So Defensively, we talked about it. Tim Ream, the American dream. He's been excellent, calmed everything down. And then midfield, McKennie, Adams, Musa, Aronson when he's been coming off the bench. Perfect bench player in these situations in a tournament. They've been great. Only question mark like you is up top. Can they get some kind of something going up there? But Sargent did okay movement-wise in the first half. Weyer was excellent coming off the right. And Destin Robinson, the fullbacks, have been revelations as well. I know that's been a huge area that we focused on a lot. And out wide, the US has really crushed teams and just penned them back. And that's been huge this tournament. So I think now the US, they're obviously playing with house money. And as we look ahead to the last 16 game against the Netherlands, I mean, they've exceeded expectations and no one really expected. I didn't expect as much as you did to expect from them. So I'm going to give them an A-. And like you said, the only way that it could have been a higher grade is if they would have figured things out up top. And now with Pulisic, his injury maybe, we'll see who comes in up there. So which players were the stars then? We mentioned a lot there. Who do we think really stood out in this group stage and made the difference to get them into the last 16?
Well, a lot of players saved their best performances in a U.S. shirt for the World Cup, and I thank them for that. Serginho Dest, the last two games, I think, besides he has a couple highlight reel offensive plays for the U.S., but I thought his best days were these last two games, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's really got the attention of teams in England and around the world. But I do want to point out, because for as much as we've talked about Tyler Adams and Christian Pulisic over this whole qualifying cycle, a player who's really coming into his own is Yunus Musa. This was just a sensational game for him. I pulled up some of the stats from our friends at Opta and FOTMob. 32 accurate forward zone passes in that game, 11 recoveries, and he only missed on 5 passes. And when you're in that part of the pitch in a game we knew they wanted to have possession, he just didn't let up. And the way he turns with the ball, he asks teams to either foul him or run with him. And both of those things are fine for a team that wants to get the ball in their playmakers' hands.
Yeah, it was brilliant to see these young stars step up. And like you said, when it all came down to it, they put in their best displays individually and as a team when it mattered most. On the flip side of it, who needs to improve? We talked about the strikers there. Haji Wright, Josh Sargent's been played up there. Anybody that you want to see more from? Weston McKennie was excellent against England, but I think he's just struggling a bit fitness-wise, right? And the tempo maybe of this game after the England game caught up with him in the Iran game. But if they can wrap him up in cotton wool a bit, he could be a problem for the Dutch team and in the knockout rounds. Yeah,
listen, I'm right with you. I think he needs to be, well, doesn't need to be. I think he has to get sharper. And we know he's a guy who likes to shoot. He's a little bit of even more wild card Ruben Neves, that he wants to shoot from distance, but he likes to get to the grimy places too. And he'll probably, look, if you play those 3 games over again, maybe he does get a goal. He could have scored at least once, if not twice, against England. But the guy I'm looking at, and I don't know if you're going to agree with this, and it's a difficult position to rate, I now want to see a little bit more out of Matt Turner.
Exactly what I was going to say. Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, if he's our number one, and he is now, and he's earned it. And he has gotten better. Again, remember, this is someone who has dedicated himself to soccer a little later in his career at the college age. He does make the highlight reel saves often. And he's gotten better in possession. Credit to that. But a couple of drops, he gets to the right spaces, and then it's like he doesn't necessarily trust his body. So I want to see a little bit more control of his faculties.
Yeah, true. That's a good way to put it. I think against Iran, right, that late chance for Taremi when he basically went to dive rather than finishing. If he would have gone for the finish, I think he probably would have scored and knocked the US out. So
this is a different show. Yeah, this is a different show.
Absolutely. But Matt Turner, hesitated to come out on that. There was a couple of chances that Godos had near, and he didn't quite, I'd say, maybe it's a cliche, but he's not really commanding his area. He's not one of these keepers. He's huge, and you think he'd be coming out, just burying people in the 6-yard box, punching balls away. But you just want to see him be a bit more commanding. But it's there for sure, and he's getting better with his feet. I think we've seen that in this World Cup as well. So I guess, Nick, the big question is, how good can this USA team be? Not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but they're in the last 16 now, and this has been a crazy World Cup of upsets so far. So can we dream about a really deep run for this US team? Why not?
Yeah, I would want to know who lies ahead of them after the Netherlands. I think they can beat the Dutch. I don't think this is a world-class Dutch team. I think maybe the odds 60-40 favor them. But a lot of these Dutch players are young too, and they're learning their way into a World Cup. It'll be their first knockout, and more importantly, it'll be their first knockout round as the favorite. They are going to have all of the expectation. USA is going to come in there as the young team that, people didn't even know if they'd get there, is the way I would put it. I don't want to say people didn't expect anything out of them, but they certainly weren't predicting, certainly it'll be England in the US. So my best case scenario before the tournament, if they caught breaks, was to reach the quarterfinals. I will give them a shot at going one more round because they've done it before. In 2002, they came within maybe a whistled handball or a better Landon Donovan finishing, and he was great in that game, sorry, Landon, of going to a semifinal, and that was against Germany. So it can happen.
It can, and you're looking at the way the bracket now shapes up for them. If they get past the Dutch, then looks like potentially they could play Argentina in the quarterfinals, and they have not been vintage Argentina. Messi's had to bail them out, and again, they haven't even got there yet either. Yeah. So the way it shapes up sometimes, it's weird and wonderful. And like we said, the US has hit perfect form and had pretty much all their key players fit at the same time for the first time in pretty much the entire Greg Berhalter era. So that's
credit to, Joe.
To finish with him, Greg Berhalter, how did he get on? Because much maligned, a lot of criticism from US fans, but we've seen them play the Greg Berhalter way, and it's got them out of the group in the World Cup. Is that because of him, the players, a mixture, or were the players going to do it anyway?
It was a mixture. I put most of it on the players just because it almost always is on the players. Second half against Wales, I didn't like his approach. I thought he corrected it against England. You and I disagreed in the Iran game. I thought he should have held on a little bit longer trying to get that second goal. And the only thing I wish he wouldn't have Reina. I wish he wouldn't have or would have played Reina. But the number one thing I struggle with, Joe, is this, or not struggle with, I want to compliment him for, with everything that was going on. I mean, they were the headline story on CNN for non-soccer reasons. I'm not just talking like NBC News. I'm talking the just political talk. And it didn't look like it affected them at all. And they had the right mentality for that. And he deserves credit as the leader for that.
Definitely. Deserves a lot of credit. USA have overachieved in my estimations. So well done to Greg Berhalter. Well done to the US players. And head over to Pro Soccer Talk at NBCSports.com in the coming days. We'll have all the news, preview, how to watch information, team news, predicted lineups, Pulisic injury updates. Whatever you need, we'll have all angles covered at PST because that is going to be a massive game against the Netherlands, Nick Mendola. And we're just delighted. I think exhale is the word I'm going to use to all US fans out there. Relief is the key word. They're in the last 16 and deservedly so.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.